Hey there, horror movie tea sippers.
The following podcast episode will contain spoilers for the movie we are about to review. If you have not seen the movie and do not wish to have anything ruined prematurely, please do not continue to watch or listen until you have seen the movie.
And welcome to the Horror Movie Tea Podcast. So, I don't think we announced this, but February is Kids Movie Month because it's the
Kids
same...
Horror Month.
Kids Horror Month because it's the same month that Jess's Alice was born. So, a good way to bring her into the podcast.
Yeah.
But today, for the first week of February, we are covering Coraline. But before we go into the review, let's grab our cups and talk about tea. I am drinking the Republic of Tea's Comfort and Joy tea. It's got black tea, cinnamon, cloves, licorice fruit, and apple bits.
And I am doing a repeat as well. It is Plum Deluxe's Comfort Blend Black Tea. And it's got black tea, cinnamon chips, orange peel, ginger, clove, and orange extract.
And thank you both to Plum Deluxe and the Republic of Tea for allowing us to continue to do what we love. And for our lovely tea sippers out there, brew yourself a cup of tea, sit back, relax, and we hope you enjoy the review. So, the summary of Coraline. Her parents they write for like a magazine, very like a gardening magazine of all things. And anyway, they have to move. And so they move into this apartment complex that used to be a house and has been split like 3 ways to make apartments. Mm-hmm. But anyway, she finds this small, weird door that's initially like covered up in the wall. And her mom finds the key, she opens it, and it's just a brick wall. And she's like, okay, that's weird. And then one of the, not like a neighbor, but someone that's like close to that area, this kid named like Wyborn, well, and they call him YB for short. He comes and gives Coraline a doll that has buttons for the eyes. And strange thing starts happening where Coraline goes through the door when she sleeps, and she meets a mirror image of her world with the other mother, and finds out after a few trips that the other mother has nefarious intentions, and it's her trying to beat her. So for entertainment, it's hard to not like have blinders on for this movie but it is like legitimately like a really good movie. Like it's really well thought through. The animation is incredible. Mm-hmm. And they add all of these little details that they didn't even need to have in there, but it just helps make the movie so much more like
rich.
Yeah, it's a very rich film. Mm-hmm. I would give this movie an 8.25. Like, very solid movie. Have watched this over and over. I feel like it very well captures the feeling of being frustrated with your parents, especially parents that like you feel like aren't paying attention to you or giving you the recognition that you want. But it also, it's a movie with a lesson. So it's like, mm-hmm, at the end, she like learns to appreciate her parents and
the life she has.
Yeah. There's just like so much I can say about like how much like between the animation and then the different levels of like the little pieces that they put into the movie, and then like them capturing the feeling of Coraline, all also in a way capturing the parents, because you're like, they're just tired and are trying to work.
They're so tired.
Yeah. Like especially when her mom was like trying to work in the kitchen and Coraline like kept trying to bug her, and the mother's like trying to like negotiate. It's like, okay, if I do this thing, will you then leave me alone for the rest of until like dinner time or whatever? But they definitely aren't perfect characters. Like, none of the characters are perfect, and so you definitely can see their blaring flaws. But it's like at the end of the movie, it's not about the parents being perfect or Coraline being too blind to see like what she has. It's more of a like seeing the good in what you currently have, and it's like her parents aren't perfect, but they are trying to do their best on what they can do and stuff like that. So, but yeah, that's what I got for entertainment.
Yeah.
But I will say, like, the animation itself, I'm like fascinated with. Like, obviously, like when there's smoke, it's like, okay, they obviously added the smoke, but then like the snowflakes look very stop motion like. So I'm like, how did they do the snowflakes? Like, is that CG too, or is it stop motion? And if it's stop motion, then how the hell did they make these snowflakes in the snow globe? Like, how'd they do that? And it's like, I love watching stop motion movies, especially ones like this where it's so like smooth and fluid. You're just like, how did they do it? Like, the level of work and detail and just wow.
So I love this movie as well. I give it an 8. It's not like a strongest film, but it's a solid film, and it's darker than a lot of people realize. You just don't necessarily see it on the first watch through. So this is a really good intro to horror for kids especially, and it's nice on multiple watchings that you can see the different levels and different layers this movie has. And after having Alice, I can really see both sides of the coin now. Because at first, when you watch it from like a kid's point of view, you really identify with Coraline. But after having a kid, I can see where the parents are coming from. I still feel like the mom is more harsh than she needs to be,
Yeah.
especially in the beginning.
Yeah.
There's some personal growth that needs to happen there. But she is trying, and you can tell both of the parents are stressed to the max. They're exhausted. They're running low on funds. They don't get paid until the catalog is done. So they're just trying so hard to make ends meet with what little they have. They don't necessarily have the money to buy extra stuff like the gloves that she wanted until they get the okay and the paycheck from the catalog. Mm-hmm. So, and the dad, like, they do such a good job on the animation and everything. Like, you can tell the mom is tired, but you can really see it in the dad. Yeah. The dad looks ragged.
Yeah.
So it's very interesting there. And as a kid, like, they've upheaved her life. She has moved completely away from everything she has ever known. From her home, from her friends, from her school, everything. Yeah. So it's a new environment. It's a new place. There's not really much to do. She doesn't know anyone. She's isolated. And her parents are so wrapped up in work and trying to keep a roof over their heads and everything going that they don't have the time that they should to connect with her.
Yeah.
So...
And she's definitely, like, acting out because of that. Because, like, the calling Wybie, like, Wybie born, and, like, she's honestly kind of a brat in her own right. It's like the parents...
Well, they were kind of a-holes in naming him that, honestly. Like, Wyborn?
Yeah. They're all, like, kind of hard to like, at least in the beginning. But then Coraline, like, as she's, like, she has interest and wonder with, like, each of the people in the apartment complex. And so you can understand that it's like, okay, she's acting out because she's frustrated with her situation.
Well, she also has preconceived notions of the neighbors because the mom has called the guy upstairs a drunk, and she calls the women that live below them dingbats. So she already thinks that, you know, the guy upstairs is, or Mr. Bobinski is a drunk. He's kind of a layabout, doesn't know what's going on, kind of a slob, you know, just not someone to really associate with. And then she meets him, and he's kind of odd, very odd, but he's very nice, just a little different. And then she meets Miss Spink and Miss Forcible, and learns that they were actresses, and they're very nice to her as well, and they're just also a little odd as well.
Yeah, the fact that they have like all of their previous dogs,
stuffed dogs, on a wall,
with little wings,
and they're they argue like an old married couple, and they're just kind of getting up there in years, and you know, it's age is not kind to any of us eventually, so it's hard for them to get around, and they might not see or hear as well, but they're very hospitable, and they offer her help, and they listen to her, and they give her a bit of a sounding board.
Yeah, I feel like she warms up to her neighbors because she feels like she's heard.
Yes.
Like they're interested
even
in her.
Though they keep getting her name wrong.
Yeah.
Every time.
Yeah.
Even when she corrects them, which is a little rude, but you know, whatever. She is definitely rude to the neighbor guy, Wyborn. She does warm up to him for sure. It helps when he finally apologizes, like, I'm sorry I didn't believe you about all this evil stuff. It did take a little bit for him to see. But she realizes that not everything is free. That a lot of things come at a price, and sometimes the price is worth more than you're willing to give up. So it has a good message for sure. And it's very interesting. The animation style, there's a couple of different styles in it, and they're just so engaging. And it is really smooth. Yeah. And it's so well done. And there are just little things here and there, like, so some of the things that I've seen is like when she's in the other world with the other mother and other father, the first time when they talk about playing hide and seek in the rain, and then there's a flash of lightning, the lightning is in the shape of the other mother's, her real hand. So, and it almost looks like she's reaching to grab someone. And on the cake, I read when it said welcome home, someone had interviewed like a handwriting
expert or something.
And said that when the O is a certain way, it's truthful. When it has a double swirl and not really connected, then it's a lie. And welcome, the O had it connected. Home was double swirled and not connected.
Ooh, interesting.
So it was not her home.
Oh.
Yes.
That's interesting.
Yes.
I like that.
So it was very nice there. It was a nice touch. I loved the different effects, even with like the water and the food that they used and everything. You can tell it was kind of a mix of stop motion and CG, and it just blends so beautifully.
Yeah,
it's pretty so well done,
seamless.
Yes, and the voice acting in it was fantastic. So it was great. They really captured the boredom, the all-consuming boredom that a kid can feel. Like, I don't know if it was just me, but there were times like in the summer when there was no school and there was nothing to do.
See, like, I was really good at figuring out stuff to do.
I would figure stuff out, but there were times, like, before I would decide, you know, this is what I want to do to kill that boredom, where I'm just like, watching paint dry is better than sitting here like this. And I feel like they all could have benefited from some therapy. Because, like, it was a big change for her, and it can really have an impact on kids, changing their environment that much, especially so suddenly. But also for the parents, it's stressful for them as well. And the mom especially didn't really seem to regulate her emotions very well.
No. Yep.
There were times where she could have phrased things a little differently.
Yeah.
But there were also times when Coraline could show a bit more empathy. And that could partly be because of her age. It does develop as you get older. But because of that big change, I think that was a huge factor.
Yeah. Yeah. Well, and it's like, honestly, all of the characters in this movie aren't, well, I'd say like the parents in Coraline, at least for me, or no, honestly, YB is the most likable character.
Oh, yeah. Apart from the cat.
Yeah, and the cat. Gotta love the cat.
Apart from the cat.
I love how it's like the cat just like annoying the other mother or whatever, just like seeing what he can get away with.
Being a cat.
Yeah.
Doing cat things.
Yeah, doing cat things. But it's like, I love how even though Coraline or the parents, or I mean even the crazy neighbors, aren't necessarily like the most like happy-go-lucky or immediately likable characters, you can understand where they're coming from. And like even though this movie has a happy ending, it's not like the way that the parents come out of the snow globe and like it's like they came back from a trip. They're not like happy, like, oh, Coraline, we met, you know. They're kind of like, you know, their same usual, like, oh, we're tired, and it's like we're gonna, you know, go do this thing or whatever. It's just like it's a interesting kids movie that doesn't add on a, oh, this is super happy, everything's ending, everything has a good ending. It's like,
no, there's still stress, there's still problems, but
she sees her world differently.
Yes. The problems aren't quite as big as she thought.
Yeah.
And they can all work through it. It just takes some time and some effort.
Yeah.
There's a lot of depth to this movie. We could go on forever about this film and others like it. But we try to limit the time that we rave on and on about movies like this. It's going to be difficult.
Yeah.
And it is a kid's movie.
Yeah.
So.
Yeah, and
yeah.
I feel like it's very much from Coraline's perspective.
Oh, definitely.
And so because of that, it's hard to understand or see all of the details.
Mm-hmm.
I do, as far as realism goes, I like the mismatch of like the apartments, and you can see how they like kind of did what they could to try and separate them out. So that was like a nice like realism touch. Mm-hmm. The dynamics between Coraline and her parents is very like realistic. A little frustrating at times, but realistic. There's parents like that.
And there are some that are better and some that are worse.
Yep.
Everybody's different.
Yep.
And honestly, I could see that they were doing the best they could.
But they could have been better.
They could have been better. And again, I will say it again. They could benefit from some therapy.
Yes. Yes. I think it's realistic. Coraline, like, not just because of her age, but because she's been thrust into this situation, her kind of like brattiness in different ways, because it's like kids have a lot of trouble. They're learning how to regulate their emotions. And so, especially like around that age, it's like when you're put in a situation that's like stressful to you, a lot of the time kids will act out because they don't know how else to put words to like what they're feeling. So I feel like it wasn't her just being like a brat. It was more like she didn't like the situation she was in, and it was the only way she knew how to handle the situation. So that seemed like pretty like on point. And then her like wishing, and I mean, if you know, the other mother in that whole like world, if it wasn't actually real and it was her like fantasizing about like this perfect mother and all of that, like I can 100% like see that, and how she kind of like wore, or like instead of, let's say that this other world is like just in her imagination, like I feel like a lot of kids when they do imagine stuff, they like change surroundings that they know of and just warp it into like their fantasy of what they think would be cool. This one's hard to rate because it's like they establish that the other world is real, and there's like
Yeah, we have
victims
to
and
set
stuff.
some things aside a little bit.
Like for a kids movie, like the emotions of the characters is actually like pretty realistic.
Oh, yeah.
Okay. I would say what brings down the realism the most is the circumstances with the neighbors. Like the neighbors are just too strange. Like the one with like the mouse circus, and then the others that's like, oh, we used to be. It's like, what are the chances that two eccentric neighbors are like right next to each other?
Maybe the landlady has a type.
Okay, I'm going to give it a 3. I'm just going to commit to a 3.
Honestly, I'm going to give it a 5.
Damn it.
We have a rare situation, folks. I've rated higher than she did on realism. The interactions are the main thing that get me. I see both sides of the coin, and from both perspectives of the parents and from Coraline's view. I see the interactions between Coraline and Wybie, and how he loves his family, but he's also kind of scared of his grandma. And the main thing that I count off for is actually nothing really to do with the other mother. It's the fact that Wybie mentions, I'm surprised she let you guys move in. She normally doesn't ever allow kids into the house. So did the parents not mention that she was going to move in too? Like, did they not say they had a kid?
I mean, they would have had to, I'd assume. Maybe like...
Unless they fraudulently fibbed on all of their forms and didn't mention that there were 3 instead of just 2.
Or maybe that's why there's like wallpaper over the door where the landlady was like, well, I'll let a kid be here this one time, but I'm going to like try and cover up the door. I don't know.
I don't think so, because it didn't look new. Everything looked old and honestly a little bit shabby.
Yeah.
Just a little rundown. And that made sense because the parents looked like they could barely even afford groceries.
Maybe
like they gave
the parents like begged them like, please, you're like our only option, and maybe she like gave in, or
maybe, but I feel like if it's potentially going to cost the life of their child, I don't think she would have given in to just that. Yeah. So it was very much a movie's got a movie thing. Also the garden space being basically in the shape of Coraline. I could understand it in the other world because it was one of the wonders, but in the real world, it still looked like her. And I'm calling BS.
I honestly, I don't know if you know, but this actually used to be, or it is a book. And so I'd be interested to read the book to see like how much it differs.
I would definitely be interested in reading that as well. I liked that it was rather unique lore. I tried to look up the Bell Down and see if maybe there was more lore from like a different part of the world, and I just hadn't heard of her. But I couldn't really find anything that didn't relate to Coraline. So it seemed like she was kind of a witch, sort of. But she was very spider-like.
Yeah.
And almost mechanical.
Yeah.
So it's just kind of...
She's a mishmash of things.
Different.
See, this is the originality you were talking about.
Yes. More of this, please. So it's very interesting, and it plays on a few different fears, like childhood kind of fears. So it's very, very unique and very different, and it's very much appreciated. It's refreshing. It's very refreshing. But a lot of it, setting aside the other world and all, and the other mother, they set certain kinds of rules, like guidelines and everything, for how she works and how the world itself works, and they stick to that. So this is the consistency that I have been asking for. And I appreciate it.
And this isn't a kid's movie.
Yes.
Why can't adult movies be like this?
Do better. Looking at you, Pet Cemetery. So, they did a really good job with that, and I appreciate the growth that the movie shows, not just in Coraline, but in the parents too, and even in Wybie.
Yeah.
So it's really nice there, and she starts to embrace different eccentricities and just differences in other people around her, and starts letting go of her ideas of what things are and should be, and start looking at them in a different light. So it's nice. And again, there are lots of layers to this movie.
Yes.
It's much deeper than people think upon first viewing.
Yeah. Yeah.
So
yeah, it's not... It's like... It's not one of those movies where you can just sit passively. Like, it definitely is like an active brain.
In.
Yeah.
It really does draw you in, too. It's nice.
Yeah. Like, the world seems very interesting.
Yes.
Yeah.
It's very fleshed out. I really want more in this world. But Leica Studios did a really good job. It's a Tim Burton-esque film, but it is not actually Tim Burton. It's nice.
I'd say the biggest tell is the fact that the eyes aren't sunken in. I mean, on the parents it is, but it's because they're literally tired.
There's a reason
Coraline,
for it, yeah.
Yeah. Yeah, there's a reason. But Coraline,
it's not downtrodden, dreary, kind of gothic-esque.
Yeah.
Yeah. But it's dark and it's fun. That's what I got.
So, yeah, if you have skipped out on this movie because you're like, it's a kid's movie, I don't want to watch it.
Don't skip.
Yeah, it's a good one. It's a solid movie.
And the other mother's honestly kind of creepy.
Oh yeah, like they're like the creep factor, and then honestly the creepiest part to me is the fact that like everyone around her is like a doll or puppet that she's made. Mm-hmm. And she's controlling it.
Dude, when she transforms from looking like her mother into her actual form.
Yeah. Yeah.
I got chills the first time I saw it. Like, oh, God.
Yeah, it's creepy.
There's a problem. This is a problem. Red alert.
Yeah, they did a good job
Yes.
with making
Absolutely.
Yeah, that's why I said it's a good like kids horror type of intro to horror movie.
Yes.
Where it's like I feel like if you have a kid that's like super sensitive to scary stuff, and this might be a little bit too much.
This might be a bit much. But
if you have a kid that's kind of interested, then they'd probably like this movie.
Yes.
But it's got a good message, and
watch it with them. View with discretion. But
yes.
But this is a good one, for sure.
Yep. But thank you for joining us today, and let us know what you thought of the movie. If you would like to recommend a movie, game, or tea, you can leave us a comment, or you can join our Discord server. And if you'd like to keep up to date with our content, you can find our link tree listed below.
And if you'd like to support us monetarily, we have a Teespring and a PayPal, or we have our affiliate link with both Plum Deluxe and Republic of Tea available. It does not affect the price of the tea on either site. It just allows us to continue to do what we love. And you can find all of the sites mentioned linked below. But until the next time, guys, I was doing so well until then. Stay safe and stay spoopy. Bye.